I'm hurt. That's my little brother getting thrown on that sled like he's nothing.
Today on the Morning Edition, pain and confusion for a family of a teen whose body was dragged through the streets of Utqiagvik as the police department and mayor's office offer an apology. Plus, another family searching for answers after a man was shot and killed by Anchorage police earlier this week. His sister questioning how her brother got a hold of a gun that was previously confiscated. And happening right now, a plane carrying 10 goes missing near Nome. We'll have the latest on the multi-agency search as officials say there is still hope of finding survivors. The Morning Edition continues. Good morning, everyone. We've been following this breaking news all night as search and rescue efforts continue for that missing Bering airplane carrying 9 passengers and 1 pilot. That flight headed for Nome, as you can see on this flight radar, took off from Utqiagvik at 2:37 p.m. yesterday and dropped off the radar. Last reporting info at 3:16 over Norton Sound.
We've been tasked by the Nome Search and Rescue to search between Topcock and Cape Nome. A plane disappeared off the radar in that area.
White Mountains Fire Chief Jack Adams describing the urgent search. Those involved saying they're up against difficult weather conditions, as you can see in this time-lapse video taken from Nome around the same time the Cessna 208B Grand Caravan dropped off the radar shortly after 3 p.m. In this video, you can see planes coming and going as visibility dropped right there, as you can see, significantly yesterday evening.
There's zero visibility. It's basically you can't see anything from the air or the ground. And in the dark, looking for something at zero visibility is going to be a tough job. They will search either until they find them or somebody else finds them, I guess, indefinitely. They're prepared to be out.
You can see those whiteout conditions in nearby town Golovin in this time lapse taken around the same time the plane dropped off the radar. And here you can see a viewer-submitted photo of a search and rescue team from Nome as they prepared to head out on snow machines yesterday evening. Multiple agencies are working the search, including a C-130 Coast Guard plane, which has specialized equipment meant for zero visibility conditions. It's being used to scan the water and shoreline from Nome to Topcock. J-Bear is also reportedly providing Air Force assistance. Now, search crews are facing winds of up to 50 miles per hour with snow and about 5 feet of visibility. That's like standing in front of a vehicle and just barely seeing the headlights. That's from White Mountain Fire Chief Jack Adams, who says he wants to emphasize there is still hope, especially if the plane is intact. They carry survival gear like warming blankets and sleeping bags, and they have medical supplies on hand. It's tough conditions out there for ground crews, especially as a foot search won't be able to resume until this weather clears up, Aaron.
The good news is we are beginning to see some improving conditions for areas out west. That is going to really be for today. As we welcome in the weekend, we will see the return to some wintry weather out towards Nome, as well as Norton Sound and Utqiagvik. In fact, this morning out towards Utqiagvik, we are still seeing some of that the foggy conditions. Now, visibility not as low as what we did see yesterday, but we are still seeing some of that fog. This is out looking towards Norton Sound, and then as we head out towards Nome, improving conditions. In fact, clear skies this morning. This is also looking towards Norton Sound. So we should see the opportunity for search crews to get out and have better opportunities today, as we are not seeing as great as those foggy conditions as we did see yesterday. Now, there's still some brisk winds that are occurring out over Norton Sound, but for the most part, the activity has died down. There's still the possibility for some light snow through parts of Nome out towards White Mountain and southern parts of the Seward Peninsula. But as far as today, we're going to see a lot nicer weather compared to what we did see yesterday. Now, that all set to change as we welcome in the weekend, as a storm system that's impacting the Aleutians will build north, leading to the return to wintry weather in areas of rain and freezing rain, possibly with some wintry mix as we welcome in the weekend for Nome, Utqiagvik, and areas out towards the Yukon Delta. But as far as today, we do have a blizzard warning that continues out towards Gamble, St. Lawrence, and we do have some light snow occurring through the interior this morning. Winds have been gusting anywhere from about 40 to 65 miles per hour for the Aleutians. We're going to hold on to those winds steadily increasing through the day with some heavy rainfall to be expected. The rest of the state outside of the interior and parts of southeast will continue to remain dry and fairly mild. I'll have more on that in that 7-day forecast coming up.
Turning Turning now to news from across the state, a grieving sister left with heartbreaking questions after her teenage brother's body was found, as she says, disrespected, and a warning. The following story deals with suicide and may be triggering for some.
I'm hurt. That's my little brother getting thrown on that sled like he's nothing.
Zoe Vasquez Adams describes the pain of seeing her 17-year-old brother, Christian Vasquez, being transported on a sled after what she says was his death by suicide. A video of the moment began circulating online, reaching her through multiple people. Police told her the gun in her brother's hand was frozen to his fingers, making it too dangerous to move him any other way. While officers apologized, Zoe says the incident should have never happened this way.
I'm lost at words. The disrespect I felt when I watched that video, and I just don't ever want anybody else to go through this.
North Slope Borough Mayor Josiah Pacatak called the incident poor judgment and said an investigation is ongoing. Joey Vasquez Adams says her family is waiting on the mayor's response before deciding on legal action. The North Slope Borough Police did not respond to requests for comment. If you or someone you know is struggling with suicidal thoughts, the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline is open 24 hours a day in English and Spanish. You can call or text 988. The family of a man who was shot and killed by Anchorage police say they are trying to figure out exactly what happened before he died. Police say 33-year-old Francis Rochon was shot on Tudor Road after ignoring commands and pulling a firearm from his waistband. His sister says he struggled with mental health after losing one brother to suicide and another to murder. While he sometimes drank and used marijuana, she says he seemed fine when she saw him that morning. Hours later, he was dead, and she's left searching for answers.
My brother was sober when I dropped him off. He was in good spirits. He was Francis. And the last thing I said to him was, "I love you, I'll see you later." He said, "I love you, I'll see you later." And he was fine when I dropped him off.
She says her brother had picked up the gun just a few hours earlier from police headquarters on Elmore Road. Police took the gun after Rochon was pulled over for a DUI last summer, but the case was dismissed in January, and she says Rochon was able to retrieve his weapon.
It is not uncommon for us to have a lot of incidents within the city at once. However, it is uncommon for us to have 3 working fires within an hour. Most of these fires take a lot of units and a lot of hands. This one specifically because it went to a second alarm, meaning that it took about twice the normal resources needed in the city.
3 fires in one night, leaving dozens displaced. The first broke out at this apartment building Wednesday night, followed by another at a car wash on Old Seward and Tudor. A third fire near Fairbanks and 7th Avenue started as a warming fire that spread to an abandoned building. 3 people were injured, one man describing seeing smoke from his apartment before losing everything.
We are all, stayed at the parking lot and then just watch what's going on. And then we saw a big smoke, black smoke. And then at the back of the building, there's a big fire. But in the front, it's only smoke. So we thought that it's only smoke. But the fire department said it's a really, really big fire.
According to the Red Cross, the building contained 17 units, with the fire displacing 41 residents. Several people stayed at a shelter opened in the Spenard Recreation Center. Following the education budget crisis plaguing the state, Anchorage school district leaders are warning of a more than $100 million budget deficit. Georgina Fernandez shows us the trend leaders expect to get worse next school year.
You can see just how intensely Anchorage school district numbers show their budget deficit has increased since 2021. District leaders saying they're not just facing a dire situation with a $100 million shortfall this school year, but are projecting a $107 million gap next school year. Now, this comes after we have seen cuts already occur, including school closures, cuts to the summer school programs, and increased rental and activity fees. At the end of next school year, we will be seeing 2 school closures. And also there's now talk about cuts to middle school sports, as well as special programs like the School of the Deaf and Hard of Hearing. In an interview with Alaska's news source, the ASD superintendent blamed the trend on the state per student funding, known as the base student allocation, not keeping up with inflation.
There really hasn't been any political will of the legislature to increase the amount of reliable funding that students receive. And a lack of willingness to solve the root cause, which is a lack of an inflation adjustment for the base student allocation, is hurting not just ASD, but essentially any district that you can name statewide.
We asked the governor's office for a response to that statement. They did not directly answer the question. Instead, referred us to the governor's press conference last week, where the governor talked about his education reform legislation that includes one-time funding for neighborhood schools and an increase in homeschool and charter school funding. You can find more details about those bills on our website. Georgiana Fernandez, Alaska's news source.
Pearl Creek's a community, and to just have that taken out from underneath you is really hard to deal with. It's like saying goodbye to a family member, you know?
Frustration and sorrow is being felt by some in Fairbanks following the school board's decision to close 3 elementary schools Tuesday night. Our Adrian Peterson spoke to a parent of one of the schools the board decided to close.
That sentiment is just one of the many emotions felt by Vic and others who lost their school to a consolidation effort. That effort being a necessity according to the school district, which faces a $16 million budget deficit. Pearl Creek, along with Midnight Sun and Two Rivers Elementary, were the 3 schools the Board of Education decided to close following a proposal from the school district to close 5 elementary schools. Vic says it's been difficult to explain to her boys why their school is closing.
The boys last night were crying over this, you know, they were sad. They said that they feel like they're the last puffins, like they're going extinct. It's like, it's really emotionally troubling for the children to handle this.
Here at Hunter Elementary School, those frustrations have been avoided for now, as this school, along with Salcha Elementary, have been removed from the consolidation plan by the Board of Education. Whether or not they'll be closed next year remains to be seen, but the school district must now work on balancing a budget which still has a deficit of over $6 million. District leaders say those cuts will mostly come from staff and materials. Adrian Peterson, Alaska's news source.
After the break, a life-saving lesson in listening to your heart.
Had I just listened to the paramedics, my kids would have come home and I would not have been here today.
Her decision to seek help may have saved her life. Up next, her warning to other women on this National Wear Red Day.
Snow continues through parts of the interior. We are still holding on to fairly quiet conditions across a large portion of the state. I'll have more on that. But first, the sunrise coming in at 9:14 in Fairbanks, 9:48 in Bethel. Your full forecast is next.
Welcome back. 16 minutes past the hour on this Friday morning, and it looks like we've got some sunshine in our future, Aaron.
And we're going to continue to hold on to this stretch of quiet, cool, and sunny weather for a large portion of South Central. Yes, we will see the potential for some light areas of freezing fog this morning. Nowhere near that dense fog that we did see earlier in the week, but keep in mind that we will continue to hold on to that possibility daily that we could see some localized areas of freezing fog. 12 degrees currently here in Anchorage. Overnight lows continue to remain on the colder side, and that's largely due to some radiational cooling take place with those clear skies that we do have across South Central. We've got 2 degrees in Wasilla. Looks like we've got some fog beginning to form out towards Kenai along Cook Inlet. So that's where we're going to see some of that better opportunity along Cook Inlet. And then as you head out towards Knik Arms, so areas nestled up against the water, we'll see that better chance for seeing some of that freezing fog to form this morning. Some of those colder conditions from Talkeetna out towards Golcana, where we are seeing below zero conditions. We're dry here across South Central. Heading into the interior this morning, snow continues. Now, the back end of that snowfall is beginning to push through Fairbanks. So here within about the next hour or so, you'll see some of that heaviest snowfall pushing to the south, and then activity will lighten up through the remainder of the day. We'll see an additional inch to about 1.5 inches of snowfall in some of those harder hit areas, but most of that snow did fall through the overnight hours. You can see this size of visibility coming in, a live look at out towards University Avenue. So we're seeing areas of blowing snow. Looks like we're beginning to see some fog form as well. So that will also lead to some greatly reduced visibility. So just take it easy. Give yourself plenty of time to get out the door because that snow that has been falling, dry in nature, which means it's going to easily be lofted as that traffic picks up. And that's going to lead to some of that blowing snow, which will lead to lowering visibility. So that snowfall stays with us through the morning hours, tapering off through mid-morning, early afternoon as it shifts to the south. By noon, you can see just some spotty to isolated snow showers to be expected. As that frontal boundary shifts to the south-southeast, we are going to tap into some colder conditions for the interior through at least Saturday and Sunday before temperatures do warm back into the teens. Fairly quiet here across South Central, although we will be watching an area of low pressure drifting into the Gulf of Alaska. That will lead to some areas of rain and possibly a rain-snow mix for Kodiak Island as we welcome in Saturday and Sunday. Now, extreme southern parts of the Kenai could tap into the possibility for some light flurry, if not some light drizzle activity into our Saturday night and Sunday. So we'll be watching for that, but most of South Central will continue this stretch of dry weather. So there's that chance for snow today. Again, anywhere from about up to an inch to slightly less than an inch and a half of snow in some of those harder hit areas. That will taper off through the afternoon hours. And then we've got another stretch of dry weather that will stay with us across the state. As far as the Fairbanks 7-day, you can see that colder conditions arrive into the weekend. Tomorrow morning, we'll see lows anywhere from about 10 to 30 below in some of the coldest locations. Warming back into the teens next week, and you can see by late next week, we do see those temperatures beginning to cool off once again. So this roller coaster ride with these temperatures oscillating back and forth, stay with us through the interior. Across South Central, clear and cool. We are watching some areas of morning fog out towards Kenai, possibly near Soldotna. 26 degrees in Valdez, 5 in Gulkana. The good news is gap winds are not a concern today. Whittier could see some gusts, though, up to about 15 miles per hour. The valley warming into the 20s as well as through the afternoon. Overnight lows, again, still remaining on the chilly side. But you can see that slow warming trend carries us into the weekend, mid to upper 20s, possibly near freezing next week. But, Kristen, we're going to be talking about this snowfall deficit continuing to climb. We're sitting at nearly 2 feet when it comes to the amount of snow that we are missing.
All right. Thanks, Aaron. The South Anchorage YMCA, located in the Diamond Center, is set to shut its doors. YMCA officials cite financial challenges and low membership as key reasons for the closure. While enrollment numbers have struggled to compare to the Lake Otis location, some members say that's exactly what made it special.
I love this location out of all of them because it's super low-key and there's not too many people here.
We have lots of memories, and for it to close, our little one's not going to be able to remember the location, and so it's kind of sad.
It closes Friday, February 28th. A new survey shows many Americans aren't aware of the risk of heart disease during pregnancy. Doctors from Ohio State University say more than half of people say they wouldn't be concerned about fluid retention, upper back pain, or neck pain during pregnancy, but those conditions could be signs of high blood pressure, preeclampsia, or other serious cardiovascular issues. The first Friday in February, today, marks National Wear Red Day, a day to raise awareness about the leading cause of death for women in the U.S. Stephanie Stahl has one woman's story of survival and what she wants others to know about heart disease.
Robin Eaton wants women to trust their gut when it comes to their heart.
I started having intense pain in my chest. My arms were tingly and my back hurt.
In November 2023, the 46-year-old called 911. Responding paramedics said her vitals and EKG were normal and she wasn't having a heart attack, so she didn't go to the hospital. Later, the pain got more intense and she headed to the emergency room.
It was very, very scary because all of a sudden, the room is just filled with doctors and nurses.
While a typical heart attack is caused by heavy plaque buildup in the arteries, Robin experienced a less common type that disproportionately affects women, spontaneous coronary artery dissection, or SCAD.
It's actually bleeding inside the artery wall, sort of like a bruise inside the artery. And that bruise can get so big that it blocks blood flow. When the heart is not getting enough blood flow, there can be damage.
Dr. Harmony Reynolds at NYU Langone Health wants other women to follow Robin's example.
When there's chest discomfort or another symptom that you think might be heart attack, and it's going on for 10 or 15 minutes or more, we need to call 911 and get to a hospital.
I just run a 5K the week before. I was the healthiest I've been in years.
Tests showed Robin has a condition that increases her risk for SCAD, and she was treated with medication and cardiac rehab.
Had I just listened to the paramedics, my kids would have come home and I would not have been here today.
You know your body best.
She's sharing her story as part of the American Heart Association's Go Red for Women movement and says she's maintaining a healthy lifestyle to continue healing. Stephanie Stahl, CBS News.
Among adult women aged 20 years and older, nearly 45% are living with some form of cardiovascular disease, according to the American Heart Association.
Thanks for listening to our podcast. Click subscribe so you can get the latest podcasts from Alaska's news source automatically and stay up to date with breaking news and in-depth reporting available for free 24/7 with the Alaska's news source app.